What is on Hunter Biden's alleged laptop? It's a question the media completely screwed up. Instead of investigating, many are trying to silence the story. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. Election Day is almost upon us, and you know what that means. It's time for an October surprise. An October surprise is a breaking story that comes out right before an election. In 2016, one October surprise was that footage of Trump that really grabbed him by the headlines. I know you remember that. The other October surprise was that the FBI found new emails related to Hillary Clinton and how she put classified materials on her private server. Hillary Clinton blames that FBI investigation for costing her the election. I don't know if that's true. Maybe she just lost the election because Trump looks better in a white pantsuit. But anyway, in 2020, the October surprise is Hunter Biden's shady business deals overseas. That includes his deals in Ukraine and in China. Now, in some ways, it's not really a surprise. People have known about Hunter Biden's shady business deals in Ukraine and China for years. It was even brought up during the Democratic debates in 2019.
If it's not okay for a president's family to be involved in foreign businesses, why was it okay for your son when you were vice president?
And of course, Hunter Biden's Ukraine deal with Burisma ended up being part of why Congress impeached Trump, which happened less than a year ago. 2020 really does have everything. But at least 3 new pieces to this Hunter Biden story have come out in just this month, and they do not make Joe Biden look good. But they don't make the media look good either, liberal or conservative media. On October 14th, the New York Post, a conservative tabloid, began publishing a series of stories about information found on a laptop that allegedly belonged to Hunter Biden. The New York Post alleges there's a trove of messages, documents, photos, and videos purportedly recovered from a MacBook Pro laptop that a Delaware computer shop owner told the Post was brought in for repair in April 2019 and never picked up. There are several weird things about the origin of the laptop, including the fact that the computer shop owner said he has a condition that affects his vision and can't be 100% sure it was Hunter Biden who dropped off the computer for repair. But the Post decided to publish anyway. One story that came out of that was an email that supposedly proves Hunter Biden introduced a Ukrainian businessman to Joe Biden. Another one is about how Hunter Biden tried to cash in big on behalf of his family with a large Chinese firm. This email from the laptop appears to show that Hunter Biden would get a 20% share of equity, as well as hold a 10% share for the big guy. The email doesn't specify who the big guy is. But the really explosive thing on Hunter Biden's laptop was the sex tapes, which were leaked to less reputable media than the New York Post, which started publishing them. According to some internet comments, they show Hunter Biden with Chinese women and possibly underage girls. I asked my producer Matt to watch those sex tapes to see if the rumors were true. Matt, over to you. I guess I'll be paying for Matt's therapy. Anyway, although the sex tapes do show Hunter using drugs, they don't appear to show Chinese women or underage girls. And frankly, the sex tapes are a distraction from a much more serious issue that comes out of the Hunter Biden laptop. The serious issue is foreign governments, especially China, trying to use Hunter Biden to influence U.S. policy through his father, Joe Biden. A 64-page report about this issue was publicly released last week. The report documents a lot of Hunter Biden's business deals in China. It shows there is clear intent by Chinese state officials acting to influence U.S. individuals either in official positions or with close relationships to them. Now, you'd think this would be a big deal. How the Chinese Communist Party is trying to get political influence like this. It's called elite capture. And it's especially a big deal since they were using it to get close to Hunter Biden while Joe Biden was vice president. But, plot twist, almost zero media picked this up. We did a podcast about it on our show China Unscripted, but really, almost no one else is talking about it. It just wasn't a very sexy story. Unless you consider it sexy to find documented, publicly available evidence that Hunter Biden was targeted by Chinese influence operations and did business directly with the Chinese state. Look, I'm not here to judge. But if that is your thing, you should definitely listen to the podcast. So did Joe Biden know about Hunter Biden's financial transactions with Chinese state-controlled companies? And did Joe Biden profit from them? The emails leaked by the New York Post do not show Joe Biden's official involvement, but they do raise questions. And these are important questions to ask. Just don't ask them on social media. Twitter and Facebook censored the Post's original story about Hunter, Joe, and the Ukrainian businessman. Twitter locked the New York Post's account and prevented people from sharing the story. And if somehow you found that link on Twitter, you'd be greeted with this warning. Facebook also prevented people from sharing the story. Look, they were just doing it to protect people from hacking. Yes, after backlash over their actions, Twitter said they were just blocking the story as part of their policy to not share information that had come from hacking. After receiving a lot of feedback, Twitter changed its policy. Now, some people might call those attempts to block the story censorship. Others would call it limiting or restricting, or possibly unusual steps. Which then brings us to how the media responded to the story, which I'll get to after the short break. Welcome back. We know that social media censored the New York Post's Hunter Biden expose. But what about the regular media? Some left-leaning media sites are obviously worried about reporting on anything that could lead to Trump getting elected. What a stupid thing to worry about. Don't they realize that at this point, no voter is going to change their mind? Nonetheless, it seems most left-leaning media are trying to bury the story. Mother Jones said it was pushing Russian disinformation. Politico said unnamed former intelligence officials told them it was Russian disinformation. Salon said the FBI was also investigating whether it was Russian disinformation. So please, let's all stop investigating this story because it's definitely Russian disinformation. Except Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe said it wasn't, and the Department of Justice agreed. Then the FBI said it had nothing to add. So it seems like it is at least possible there's actually something to this that can't just be dismissed as Russian disinformation. Although Mother Jones and Salon probably don't believe that because it was said by the Trump administration. But the second thing the media started to do was to debunk the story by debunking things that were not actually in the story. For example, the New York Times article says there is no evidence in the records that Joe Biden was involved in or profited from his son's joint venture in China. Debunked. Except the New York Post article never claimed Joe Biden was officially involved. The claim is that he was involved in a secret, off-the-books sort of way. So actually the claims have not been debunked. But not for long, because, plot twist, there was a second piece of the October surprise. Hunter Biden's former business partner, Bevan Cooney, gave Breitbart access to emails that appear to show how the vice president's son and his colleagues used their access to the Obama-Biden administration to arrange private meetings for potential foreign clients and investors at the highest levels in the White House. That includes an off-the-books meeting that took place between the Chinese delegation and then Vice President Joe Biden. If those emails are real, then it definitely looks like Vice President Joe Biden gave special access to foreign players to help his son. That wouldn't have been illegal, but it's definitely the kind of mutual back-scratching and light corruption that American voters really hate. And these leaked emails are pretty damning, but only if you believe Breitbart. And a lot of people don't, especially the big US media outlets, which have not even mentioned the story. Maybe because Breitbart is a conservative publication tied to Steve Bannon, who was once Trump's chief strategist. Or maybe because Bevan Cooney, who released the emails, is currently serving prison time for his involvement in a bond fraud investment scheme. Cooney says he released the emails because he believes he was the fall guy for the Biden family's corruption, and that he believes the public needs to know what really happened in Hunter Biden's universe. A few days later, as pressure was building online for legacy media to investigate, NPR issued this statement about the Joe Biden stuff. It says, "We don't want to waste our time on stories that are not really stories. And we don't want to waste the listeners' and readers' time on stories that are just pure distractions." I'm sure that's not going to come back to bite them until later that day when, plot twist, we got the third piece of the October surprise. This guy, Hunter Biden's former business partner, Tony Bobulinski. On the evening of October 22nd, right before the second presidential debate, Bobulinski gave a press conference.
I've heard Joe Biden say that he's never discussed business with Hunter. That is false. I have firsthand knowledge about this because I directly dealt with the Biden family, including Joe Biden.
Bobulinski also confirmed the emails on the laptop are real because he was on them, and that Joe Biden was profiting from Hunter's business deals in China. And you know that email that says 10% was set aside for the big guy?
In that email, there's no question that H stands for Hunter, big guy for his father, Joe Biden.
Now, we already knew for years that Hunter Biden used the Biden family name to make money in Ukraine and China. That's bad judgment on Hunter Biden's part, but not criminal for Joe Biden. However, if these new allegations are true, and it turns out Joe Biden really is the big guy and made money from one of his son's deals with a state-linked Chinese company, then that's some very serious corruption. So, why aren't there any official documents about this?
On numerous occasions, it was made clear to me that Joe Biden's involvement was not to be mentioned in writing, but only face-to-face.
Makes sense. I do all my secret transactions face-to-face, sometimes even back-to-back. Now, all that being said, Bobulinski talking to the press is not conclusive evidence. It's just one person saying it on the record, on top of the other person saying something similar on the record. Some of Bobulinski's text messages have been posted online, like this one that says, "Don't mention Joe Biden being involved," but it's not clear what involved means. Now, it's important to clarify that the company Bobulinski was involved in with Hunter Biden, Sinohawk, never ended up doing a deal with their Chinese business partner, Ye Jianming, who is currently detained in China on bribery charges. So even if Joe would have gotten a 10% cut of the Sinohawk deal, he didn't get anything from that because there was no deal. But Bobulinski alleges that Ye's company, CEFC, ended up giving a $5 million loan to the Bidens through a different company. That's something that's likely documented in the Senate report on Hunter Biden's business deals. Bobulinski claims to have evidence for Joe Biden's involvement with Hunter's China deals on 3 cell phones, and he's given those phones to the FBI. So at least this topic is worth looking into. And by looking into, I mean continuing to completely dismiss. Like this article from the Wall Street Journal, which says corporate records reviewed by the Wall Street Journal show no role for Joe Biden. Story debunked again. Except the allegation is that Hunter Biden secretly set aside a cut for his father. Would that show up in official corporate records? Obviously not. But other media began to cover the Wall Street Journal article and made it sound like the laptop stuff and the Hunter Biden allegations are all debunked, and that's that. Then there are all the fact checks from media, like this one from PolitiFact. It basically confirms many of the details of the Hunter Biden story, but then goes on to say things like, there is no evidence that Hunter Biden's activities drove changes in policy. It's true. So far, there's no hard evidence. So it could have just looked corrupt, but wasn't actually corrupt, which is less bad. PolitiFact acknowledges the Chinese Communist Party often does business with the families of well-connected individuals. It's a strategy to gain influence. But then, PolitiFact dismisses that as a problem because a wide range of China experts told PolitiFact that it's not unusual for Chinese government and business interests to court prominent Americans or their family members. Wait, if it's not unusual, then we should be concerned, right? No, you don't need to be concerned if the story relates to Joe Biden. But according to PolitiFact, you do need to be concerned when it comes to the Trump family. By the way, if you are angrily typing a comment right now, just know that we are doing an episode on the Trump family's business deals with China. That will be our next episode, unless there's another October surprise before then. But back to the Hunter Biden story. Other media have just been dismissing the entire story as a wild conspiracy. As Politico says, the MAGAverse is trying to summon another Clinton FBI moment, the kind that supposedly cost Hillary Clinton the election. Rolling Stone says Twitter and Facebook allow Pizzagate-esque conspiracy theories to spread about Hunter Biden. NBC calls it a campaign to Pizzagate Hunter Biden, which is so much worse because now they've turned Pizzagate into a verb. In NBC's verbing of Pizzagate, they're debunking another claim that no one except the fringes of the internet have made, that there are Hunter Biden videos on the laptop involving child abuse. You're debunking the wrong thing. You should be looking into the very serious and on-the-record allegations that Joe Biden used his political position to help his son make money from business transactions linked to foreign governments. But I get it. You don't want to waste your time on stories that are not really stories, and you don't want to waste the listeners' and readers' time on stories that are just pure distractions. You know, that line would be a lot more believable if NPR hadn't spent years covering the Trump-Russia collusion story. Now sure, the FBI eventually concluded their investigation without finding evidence that Trump colluded with Russia. But there's nothing wrong with the media investigating Trump's ties with Russia. Investigating stuff is the media's job. Sometimes there's a juicy burger at the end. Sometimes you end up with just a limp piece of tofu. Most conspiracy theories turn out to be nothing more than theories, but once in a while, they turn out to be investigative journalism. And the only way to know is to investigate. And as evidence builds up, a story should merit more investigation, not less. Or, of course, you could just silence a story and hope it doesn't get bigger. And I understand, because reporting the last October surprise may have cost the Democratic candidate the presidency. But as more of these allegations are proven, this could come back to bite the media who are saying it's not a big deal. But it's not just mainstream media who are handling the story badly. A lot of conservative media are handling it badly too. And I'll show you how after the break. Welcome back. As much as liberal media have screwed up the Hunter Biden story, conservative media have too. But they've screwed it up in a different way. mainly through exaggeration and unsubstantiated claims. For example, Fox News reported on an email showing that Kamala Harris, Chuck Schumer, and Andrew Cuomo were listed as key contacts for a Biden-China business deal. And conservative media exploded. Report after report after report came out about how the entire Democratic Party was compromised. Except if you actually look at the email Fox News based this on, it is literally just a research document listing Democratic officials and the infrastructure projects they have going on in their states. When it comes to Kamala Harris, she's just part of a list of names of California officials. That's it. Harris is just part of a list of names. That's very different from Hunter Biden's business partner saying, yeah, these emails are real, and we were setting aside 10% of the China deal for the big guy. The conservative media making wild exaggerations that are easily debunked just allow other media to use them to debunk the whole thing, which they should not do. Obviously, there is a line between taking credible allegations and informing the American people about it, and using wild accusations to attack political opponents. And whether you're talking about Biden or Trump, both liberal and conservative media have stepped over that line on multiple occasions. So I guess the real October surprise this year is how badly the media has handled the October surprise. And this whole partisan split of the media is probably the worst thing about it. It makes it really hard for people to actually get information. And shows like America Uncovered, which try to be nonpartisan, have a really, really hard time. At this point, I'm just going to tell you what I know in as nonpartisan a way as possible. Did Hunter Biden trade on his family name to get lucrative deals with Ukrainian and Chinese state-backed companies? Yes. That may be unethical, but that's not illegal. Did those state-backed companies hope to influence Vice President Joe Biden? Yes, but also not illegal. Did Joe Biden change U.S. policy to benefit those companies? That would be illegal, but there's no evidence of that. Did Joe Biden make money from his son's transactions? Also illegal, but while there are allegations of this from Hunter's former business partner, there's no conclusive evidence of that either. That doesn't mean the media shouldn't be investigating whether there is evidence of those things, especially now that Hunter's laptop and 2 on-the-record sources have come out. And more importantly, the FBI should be investigating. Foreign influence in the U.S. is real, especially in politics. It's something people from all sides of the political spectrum need to be concerned about. And it doesn't help when conservative media exaggerate and liberal media try to sweep the whole thing under the rug, or vice versa. The good news is, none of this is going to affect the 2020 election, because at this point, even if Biden and Trump both turn out to be space aliens, it's still a two-party system. I'm voting for Kodos, by the way. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.